Thank you. Thanks for turning up at what is quite a long way through the first day of BCB. There are a lot of people out there that don't want to come and listen to non-alc now, so it's really good to have a nice crowd here. Thank you. I need to work this out. I'll press that, all that. So I am the founder of Everleaf. I'm wearing two hats, if you like, none today. I am both a bartender. I've bartended for almost 30 years. I'm a bar owner. I've been a bar owner in London for 17 years now, but I'm also a brand founder. So today I'm talking with my Everleaf hat on as a non-alc aperitif that we developed out of my bars for consumers that were looking for no and low options. So about 5 years ago, we launched Everleaf, really because we were seeing loads more people wanting no and low in our bars, and we didn't really have a great selection of things to give them. So that was down to me to use my background in plants to develop something that was interesting, that was not a mirror of something that was already in alc. We don't want to make a non-alc gin. We want to do something that's interesting, flavor forward, and gives people great choices. But it's down to me to give you a bit of an overview of the category. So I'm going to give you a bunch of stats up on screen, but as you've been told, these are also available afterwards in the presentation. So global size of the market, $11 billion last year, up from $8 billion in 2018. So it's a significant chunk. It's not very big in the global scheme of the drinks industry, but it's getting there. It's one of the fastest growing sectors of the drinks industry, 7% compound annual growth rate a year, 7% growth by volume last year. And 90% of that growth is in no. We're talking about no and low, but most of that is coming from no at the moment. I think people are a bit of a kind of all or nothing in terms of what they actually drink, in terms of the drink in their glass. But as we'll see in a minute, the category is a little bit more confusing than that. 70% of the growth in beer and cider, like you'll have all drunk a non-alc beer, I'm sure, but the fastest rate of growth is actually in spirits. And the most valuable markets are Germany, Spain and the UK within Europe, Japan and the US as well. But Germany's a very mature market, as we'll see in a slide coming up. But as I kind of implied earlier, it's quite a recent development. Most of those no and low drinkers have come into the market since 2019. So we're still seeing a huge amount of potential for growth. And 95% of consumers now are aware of the category at least, which 5 years ago they were not. There was a lot of category education to be done then. Nice stat there that half of the UK on-trade business leaders think no and low alcoholic drinks will be a key trend this year. Everyone we talk to from Everleaf, and we are on-trade focused, is interested in the category. They're seeing it as a growth category. They want to stock more non-alcs, which is wonderful. It's a huge improvement over the last few years. And then I've just done a slide to divide up the off-premise, on-premise, and e-commerce channels. We're very firmly in the on-premise at Everleaf, but as far as the on-premise goes, we're seeing huge growth in the newer markets. The US is a newer market for non-alc. That's up 30%. But this increase in number of products is making it much harder for brands like us. I'm sure Emma will say the same thing. It's really hard to get a listing in grocery because there are a lot of big entrants to the market now. So whilst there's a lot of growth, it's mainly coming from a few players. In more mature markets, like this one in Germany, we're actually seeing that growth starting to slow a little bit. The market's developing as you'd expect, I guess, as a category becomes more mature. Price competition is a barrier for smaller brands in grocery. Again, looking at you here, in the more premium part of the market, it is a bit of a challenge for us to compete with some of the big brands out there. Whereas in the on-premise, we have less price sensitivity and more focus on premiumness. So that's really where we like to sit. Recent US stats from this year, 1 in 7 on-premise visitors drink non-alc, which is up to a quarter of them when you look at the under 35s age group. So really, really showing this trend towards moving towards consuming more non-alcs. And there's a great stat that a third of pub visits in the UK involve non-alc as well. 74% of evenings out have a mixed group of people moderating their drinking. So we're trying to be inclusive here. We're not just talking about people that don't drink. We're talking about people that go out and socialise. We're not trying to convert everybody to non-alc. We're just trying to give people who are out with their friends a choice. So I think it's really important to note that we're about serving an occasion, not about getting people off alcohol. 50% of non-out drinkers are also drinking alcohol on a night out. So this is a really interesting bit that I'll come on to as well, but people are starting to blend their drinking. Although in the no and low category, most people are drinking no, if they drink it, rather than low, they are blending this with alcohol. So I'll come on to this in a minute, but it starts to become a little bit more complex, but people are mixing up what they drink. And there are some terms for that there. Blended drinking, zebra striping, I thought was a particularly good one. Shims, a shim in between your alcoholic drink to lessen the impact, or mindful drinking, which Camille will come on to a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, this concept of wanting to go out, have a great night, just not wanting to end up too drunk at the end of it, but to have some really nice drinks on the way. A drink journey, if you like. Finally, coming on to e-commerce, which is huge in Germany here. 94% of shoppers are also buying drinks containing alcohol. We're not selling to people that don't drink. We're selling to people that moderate their drinking, which I think is a really important consideration here. There are people that don't drink. We sell to them. That's great. It's just a tiny percentage of the people out there that are buying non-alc. Largest growth in spirits, as I mentioned before. And I think this last one is really, really exciting for us. The consumers buying non-alc spend more on the total category versus alcohol buyers. So they're spending more money on buying alcohol as well as buying non-alc. So they're really exciting category to sell to because they're really interested in quality and buying really nice products. That's my slide full of stats. Let's move on. So for us, growing in the on-trade has been all around right place, right serve, right menu. So for this, it's all about finding the places that can really sell non-alcs well. And that has been slightly earlier in the evening. Like late night drinkers are generally out late because they're partying quite hard. So early evening drinkers that may want to come out for a few drinks before they go on and do something else, but don't necessarily want to drink as much. And 1 in 4 customers tend to default to tap water when they're not drinking. So there's a missed opportunity there of about £800 million in the UK market of people that you could be selling a really tasty non-alc alternative to. So category education, what do we need for this? So I think this needs 3 different parts, 3 different sections of education. Firstly, we need on-trade category level education. So this includes the different subcategories. So I guess what we're talking about here is that we have the analogues, we have the non-alc gins, the non-alc roms, the non-alc whiskies, but we then need education in the kind of the alcohol adjacent things, which I would include Everleaf in. So they fit a drinking occasion, they fit that spritz moment, they fit the aperitif, Aperitivo as well, but they're not direct analogues of something that already exists in alc. And then the third category we have here is adaptogenic products, things that aim to mimic the effects of alcohol or give you alternative effects or make you healthier. And that's a slightly more complicated category that we need a lot more education in to teach bartenders about as much as anything. Second part there, consumer education. We want to be able to teach people that there are really premium products here, that they take a lot of effort to make, that they're expensive to make, but that you can get a really quality product at the end of it. So this is a really important one for consumer, to teach them that we're not just talking about cordials or flavored waters for a lot of the products that we have here. And then finally, we have an education for brands themselves to become better at brand building. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what Emma has to say about this, because I think she's a fantastic brand builder. And we all look to Aperitivo to see what they're doing. So really looking forward to hearing from her. So what's our strategy been? I was asked to say a little bit about what our strategy's been in the last 5 years. Well, I guess last 5 years includes COVID, so I can't really say anything without mentioning that. But we have kind of covered over all the different categories. We started as very much an on-trade brand, given my background in the on-trade. So that's where we launched and that's where we started growing. And we obviously had to do the pivot that everyone had to e-commerce, and quickly learned the challenges of that and costs of acquisition and all the rest of it. We did have an opportunity to move into grocery, and we found that challenging. And I've mentioned the cost of grocery and the price positioning and the competition that's out there. So our experience of grocery hasn't been wonderful, but we're optimistic for the future as this category grows. And then finally, we've moved back to the on-trade, where we feel really comfortable, and we're seeing great growth at the moment. So for us, that's really where the opportunities lie.